What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode of At Home with Mark. Today is ridiculously special. There's a big, gigantic Grinch, 3 times the heart size thing going on inside my body because I have one of my favorite guitar players who I grew up studying, he and his compadre, Chuck Garvey. But Mr. Al Schnier, thank you so much for doing this, man. I super appreciate it.
Thank you, Mark. It's good to be here.
Yeah, man. I have a lot of questions, and I say this often, but I have a page worth of stuff, and I never get to it because stuff goes in different directions, and I love that. But we'll do our best. We'll see what happens. But
Okay.
Al, my first question to you, man, and I ask this of everybody, dude. What is your earliest musical related memory?
Oh boy. My earliest musical related memory. I would say, I mean, if I really think back, it's going to be probably something on TV, right? So it's probably going to be Sesame Street, Mr. Rogers, like those something from public television, that had like the most awesome music and was so engaging for little kids. Um, one of those probably there's like the little bells from Mr. Rogers that like are like indelibly stamped in my DNA. Just those things. Those are the things that probably take me back to like my earliest sort of musical impressions.
Okay. So did you, it's like at a really young age, did you have like a really intense interest in music? Like, were you like, did you grow up in a musical family? Like, what's the background there?
I did not grow up in a musical family per se. My father played the saxophone to some degree, as a student in high school, but not much more than that. However, my parents did insist that my sister and I play music. And so they got us a piano when we were very young. I started taking piano lessons when I was like 3 or 4 years old. They wanted it to be a part of our lives, which was really cool.
Nice.
And so there was that. I mean, there was always some aspect of me studying music, as long as I can remember. But the other thing about it too that I remember was that growing up, I was born in 1968. So as a child, growing up in the pop culture that we did, music was very much a part of everything you saw on TV or listened to on the radio, etc. It was so much around us, and it could be anything from like watching Lawrence Welk with my grandparents to like the musicals of like Disney or the Charlie Brown specials or like and all of that music was so good and like such an
Yeah.
integral part of that stuff. Not to mention like American Top 40 and all of like the music of the 70s that was coming out at the time. And it just seemed like, and then there was all the variety shows and everything else. And it just seemed like music was everywhere. And I ate it up. Like I just soaked it up as a kid. I loved it.
Yeah. It seems like, oh, and somebody's saying oh yeah, I can hear it a little bit. There's like static on your mic. I don't know what's going on with the
Hmm.
iPad mic. What that could
Well,
be.
it's like I said, it's
Just
just
the
my
iPad.
iPad. So there's not a case on it. So I'm not sure what I would do differently other than leave and come back.
Let's just try the on-off button real quick and see if it works. And if it doesn't, we'll roll with the punches, as Dawes
Okay.
says.
Okay. Are you going to turn me on and off, or am I
You can just
actually
go
going
out and back in. Yeah. See if you can
to?
do that
Okay.
real quick. And I'll just
Um,
do some intermission
okay. I'm
music.
going to leave. Bye.
Bye. Thanks, BV. I heard that a little bit through my cans. But we'll get them back in here and see if that fixes it. And if not, we will just roll with it. See what happens here. Get them back in. You never know. You never know with technology, folks. Sometimes it works perfectly. Other times, not so much. Sounded fine before we went live, so I don't know what changed. But we will figure it out, and we will have a good show nonetheless. Hope everybody's doing well. A couple weeks away from the holidays, cooking. Here we go. Let's try it now.
How does it sound now?
Oh, it's better. Sweet.
Okay, good.
Dude, you never know. The on-off button sometimes works.
I know. It's amazing.
Yeah, but you
to be able to get back though.
You know what's interesting what you were saying, just to kind of continue that thread, is it's very like music is everywhere now, but in a much different way. It feels like there was more like at that time, like people just played music with their families. That was like entertainment at night. People gathered around the piano, and like we try to cultivate that in my house too, like with the upright upstairs and everything. But like it was definitely a different time. Like the appreciation, I think, was deeper. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There was like this superficial like layer on the top that like, it's weird. But
Yeah.
strange.
Well, I mean, things as our consumption of music and the means by which we have access to it is changed, and so I think that changes that relationship or that dynamic to it. Much in the same way that even then, if you look at how things were consumed in the 70s, still probably felt pretty superficial, or like it was all so fast paced compared to the way it may have happened at the turn of the century prior to that, when people were actually gathering in parlors and literally playing the music for one another, and that's how the songs were being exchanged. And that's because there was no TV or radio at the time, and so that was it. So you literally had to get together and have listen to parlor music, or play the songs for one another, and sing them together, and have your family gatherings, like you said. And
Yeah.
so I think with each sort of evolutionary step in the technology, you're going to have those changes, and generationally things are going to change, and there'll be pros and cons to it.
Mm-hmm. So did you?
We could have a whole hour-long conversation just on that.
Oh my God, dude. Yeah, totally. Well, so that was your first exposure to music. Like, what was the first? What was your first record that you bought?
I remember my sister and I had one of those K-tel records that was just a compilation of a bunch of hits at the time. And I remember there was like like an early version of "Smoking in the Boys' Room" was on it. And
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what else was on there. It was like a bunch of like 70s pop hits that were kind of all on it. And I think it was called Music Power, and it had like some big, like sort of like very 70s looking graphic on the front of it. It looked like it wasn't quite a disco ball because it predated that, but it was something pretty groovy, like somewhere between the Partridge Family and that. And it was great. And and we wore it out. Like we wore that record out. And it was. The funny thing is, I still have the record player. Little
Oh, hell yeah.
little plastic GE like suitcase record player, and I still actually have it because it'd been moved around. It was in my parents' basement, etc. And I came across it recently and opened it up, and there's a Buffalo Bills sticker on the inside of that.
Of
I was
course.
like, this thing is so cool. I was like, I totally want this thing. So I've got it at my house now.
Oh man, that's awesome. So are you the oldest or are you the youngest in your family? Do you have older siblings?
I was the youngest, and I had an older sister.
Okay. I
Yeah.
feel like my older brother is the one who exposed me to a lot. He's the first person that played the Grateful Dead for me,
Yeah, that's always the
Mm.
way. It was always the older siblings, or older siblings, the older kids in the neighborhood. That's the thing. They were
Yeah.
always the ones. It's like one of my cousins went to my school, and he and I were very good friends. But like he had an older brother who had a great music collection, and so it's like we might have been listening to Van Halen and whatever was sort of contemporary for us at the time, but like he had all the Led Zeppelin records. He had all Bruce Springsteen's records and Elvis Costello and all this other stuff. It's just like a little, like, just a little bit like outside our wheelhouse. But I wanted to know everything that he had. And we had access to his whole 8-track tape collection or whatever it was. And so
Dude,
we were listening to all that stuff, which was great.
I love how like that becomes like a conduit to discovery, like other
Yeah.
like separated, like siblings and stuff. That's so great.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you to tie this in discovery wise. Okay. So let me tell you a tiny story real quick. I was probably a senior in high school or a freshman in college. And a bunch of my friends, we all went to see Fish at Virginia Beach. And that was the night that it was right before Story of the Ghost came out. And they debuted like Ghost and all these other tunes. And there's like footage of Leroy from Dave Matthews Band playing like 2 saxes and stuff. But we were in the lot, we were walking around, and this guy walked past me, and he had a Mo shirt on. And my buddy and I were like, "What's Mo?" And he's like, "Oh, if you like Fish, they rock even harder." And we're like, "Okay." So like we went home. When we got home, I went to Record and Tape Traders in Bel Air, Maryland, and bought No Doy. And this probably was 97. So I was like a year late to the party, probably, from No Doy. But like you guys became a huge part of me in terms of studying guitar. There was something about the way that you two played together that connected with me more than any music that I had heard at that time in the jam band genre kind of thing. Widespread and all this other stuff that my brother was trying to get me into. And he got me into Schofield too, like via a go-go, which was awesome. But there was something about what you guys were doing with the guitar that just spoke to me. So I was like hardcore Ron following you guys around. And then we saw you guys. Do you remember the show at Wilmer's Park that you played where the lighting fell on Deep Banana Blackout?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So the day that happened, that evening when it rained and you guys did like a cool acoustic set on stage, I think maybe just around a condenser or something, or just a solo acoustic maybe.
Yeah, I remember just sitting on the front of the stage.
Yeah. But that day we were walking around and you guys had your booth and I bought this shirt. Now, when I bought this, someone in your tent was like, maybe this guy will sign it for you. And Chuck drew this.
Oh my God.
Now, I was gushing over Chuck and you had your back to me. But when Chuck was done, Chuck was like, maybe Al will sign it. And you're like, are you sure you want me to sign it? Like just messing with me. And you wrote, I don't know if you can see this, but you wrote Al is number 2. Can you see that? But dude, I have had this shirt since then. There's the Al's number 2 right there. But dude, this is like a cherished, dude. I don't wear this. I keep it in this like t-shirt bin of memories that I have. I mean, I don't know what the hell I was thinking getting an extra large. I'm a schmedium at best. But dude, like this,
everybody wore XLs back then.
That's true. It's true. Okay. But dude, like this moment for me, like just so you know, like this was a very pivotal moment for me because the conversation I had, and I have a picture, it's me and my best friend and you and Chuck. We're all hanging out, like took a picture. It was really nice, you guys. But
well, you'll like this. Just to tie the story together or take it one step further. So after the trussing came down and I think we lost the PA altogether. So, and the only reason that we played at all was because what we wanted to, but we borrowed acoustic instruments from friends of ours. And so the guy who made that shirt was Kyle of Kyle's Song.
Nice.
And I was playing his acoustic guitar during that set when we played Ice Cream Man and Skeeter on My Peter and a bunch of different, like we were so drunk at that point. But I remember borrowing Kyle's guitar and he had like a Fender Malibu or Newporter, like one of those like 60s like Fender acoustic guitars. And I remember it was his guitar that I played that day. So I don't know if that dude, it just adds to the sort of lore of the whole thing. So you have one of Kyle's shirts, but that set that we played, I was playing Kyle's guitar also.
That's so cool, man. But
that's also the Kyle from Kyle's Song.
That's great. I love that. Man, it's like it was such a seminal moment for me because I just remember having a conversation with you guys about like, hustling and just keep doing it. And like, and I needed to hear that whenever, I mean, I don't know how old I was. I mean, I was probably in college at that point, but like, but it was such a, like an awesome conversation, and it really lit my fire. And to this day, I mean, I went to school for music as a second degree and continue to play and release records. And it's like, you guys kind of like pushed me in that direction to keep pursuing my passion. So I just wanted to take a minute to thank you there.
I'm
So
sorry.
don't worry, I have a decent job. Actually, I work for the Berklee College of Music.
Oh, awesome.
But you know, it's like those little moments in your life when you meet your heroes, and people say, "Don't meet your heroes, you'll be disappointed." I'm like, I've met so many people, you guys, I've met Derek Trucks and all these people, and you guys have all been amazing and so wonderful. So it's just, anyone who says that, I'm like, meh. So, but thank you. I wanted to take that minute to gush for a second. All right. So records, if we jump forward, how did you end up? We're both big Pearl Jam fans. Vinny was like, you got to talk to Al about Pearl Jam. I have a Pearl Jam tattoo on my arm, by the way. So like, I went all in.
Wow.
But, you know, how did you end up getting into that music?
It was just, I mean, because it was everywhere at the time. You know, I'll be honest. I was a little skeptical of them at first, just because, you know, at the time they came around, I was a huge Chili Peppers fan, big Jane's Addiction fan, Primus fan, and I've been following those bands for years at that point. And none of those bands had hits. I was skeptical of like the Chili Peppers becoming too popular. You know, I saw the Chili Peppers play in clubs in New York with 500 people, and it was the same thing. We were seeing Primus, like the same thing, and then like, you know, Jane's Addiction kind of blew up, and it was like, you know, we were sort of on this path. It's like you were listening to these bands that were like these very cool underground bands, and it was like this whole thing, and all of a sudden MTV sort of figured them out, and it was like, oh no, they're going to start becoming pop bands, and then it'll all go away. And it happened to some extent, but then when the grunge thing started happening, everybody was a little skeptical. Everybody was skeptical of, I remember being skeptical, like everybody was skeptical of Nirvana and Pearl Jam when like they first came around, because they weren't cool like all the bands that we had been listening to at first, because they were instantly popular. They were immediately like, they had hits immediately, and like they didn't do all the dirty work that those other bands had for like so many years that we've been listening to. But the thing is, I saw Pearl Jam before I knew who they were, and that was the thing that kind of that was why I had I liked them immediately. There was a tour the Chili Peppers did with Smashing Pumpkins, and it was a double bill, and this was like, I want to say it was either the fall of 1990 or 91, and so it was right when, I think when Blood Sugar came out, and maybe Gish, I think, and those two records were out, and so they did a double bill, and they were playing a theater in Rochester, and so, you know, I would go see the Chili Peppers anytime they went on tour, and then Pearl Jam came out, and they weren't on the bill, like they weren't on the ticket, like I didn't know who they were. They came out and did a half-hour set. Still no idea who the band was. Like I'd never heard of, like their name had not been mentioned yet. 10 had not been released. No idea who the freaking band. I had to go to the merch table and like find a t-shirt to find out the name of the band. Dude. And they probably played, I would say like a half-hour set, maybe like 7 or 8 songs. You know, Eddie climbed on top of the PA, and I think he sprained his ankle during the show. And I mean, it was crazy. It was such a good set, though. I mean, basically played everything that was on 10, and so good, and blew away the Smashing Pumpkins, who only played also for about a half hour until they got on a fight on stage, and then walked off the stage. And but that was the first time that I saw Pearl Jam, and then proceeded to see them several times, like in the next, like in the subsequent years that followed. And those first couple of records they put out were so good. Like their hits be damned. Like those are such great records. Like they're undeniable. And you know, and then for them to connect with Neil Young after that, it was like my hero. And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, like this, you know, like they couldn't do any wrong. Like they were playing, like they played with Sonic Youth and Neil Young. They're like my two like favorites, and I'm like they were just great.
At
And I
that point,
never, ever, ever, ever stopped liking them. I like them. I've liked them more in the last 20 years than I did in the first 5 or 10 years. You know, the music that they make now and their shows now are phenomenal.
yeah, man.
They're
Did
like
you,
America's best kept secret. Like I don't know how they still sell out arenas to 20,000 people and nobody knows that they're still a band. But
dude? I saw that meme. There was like a meme of like these like it's probably for some anime thing, and there was like a little girl in a wheelchair and a girl pushing her, and they're by this cliff, and the girl was like, "Wait, Pearl Jam's still a band?" And then it's like the girl pushing her up the thing. But it's true. Like a lot of my friends just jumped ship after
yeah,
Vitology. Like
right,
I'm like, you missed Yield, you missed Binaural, you missed all these
right.
amazing records. Like you need to go back into it because it's like Yield is my favorite record. Probably. What's your
That's a
favorite Pearl
great
Jam record?
record, right? I mean, Lightning Bolt's a great record.
Yeah, man.
Like, there's some, I mean, that's Lightning Bolt, like the song Lightning Bolt, like that's
Oh
a
my
great
god.
jam band song. Like, there's
Uh-huh.
so many, I freaking love that song. Like, you know, that's the thing. They keep writing great songs. Their last record was really good.
I know, yeah. Gigaton.
Yeah, but I mean, there's some good, really good live songs on there too.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever talked? Have you ever tried to convince them to play like Lightning Bolt or something? Get Mo to play a Pearl Jam song?
I think every now and then we might talk about it, but it doesn't have. I don't know if anybody else has the interest that I do. And it's the funny thing is, like, you know, once we talk about covers, you've got 5 or 6 different guys with different ideas, and then to find something where we all land to go, oh, yeah, this would be a good thing for this one time that, you know, we want to put some time and energy into it. So the funny thing is, we always land on songs, and it's funny, like we wind up covering all the same songs that Pearl Jam covers.
That's funny.
So,
Hey man, you know, it's funny because like that band is like they're probably one of the best rock bands alive right now.
they're a
Period.
great rock band. Like,
Period. I never got to see the Foo Fighters with Taylor though. Did you ever see the Foo Fighters?
no, I never did.
I've heard they were put on a great show, but I never got a
No,
chance to
I'm
see them.
sure.
That's
I'm
crazy.
sure.
But I
No.
had to ask you about that because I mean, so are you a Stone guy or are you a Mike guy?
I like them both. I mean, the thing is, Stone writes the greatest songs,
Yep.
but Mike is one of my favorite lead guitarists. I mean, he is so and not not underrated. I just think he's under the radar. Like I think he's underappreciated. You know, anyone who takes the time to notice him, like like everybody like holds him in high regard if they listen to him, but he just doesn't get the same recognition that like a lot of other players do, and he should. He's
Yeah,
phenomenal.
100%.
I mean, honestly, I'm a Matt Cameron guy. I think
Yeah.
he's like he might be the most talented guy on stage. I mean, he's such a great drummer, and I'm like blown away every time I see them. Yeah, he's like the unsung hero of that band.
Oh,
And
totally, dude. Yeah.
yeah.
Although when he first joined, you know, like Jack Irons is one of my favorite drummers with them
Mhm.
because I feel like there's nobody that attacks the snare like that guy.
Yeah.
It's like you can hear like as soon as like you listen to if you had your something on shuffle and there was live stuff playing, you would know when Jack Irons was
Right.
hitting that snare, you know. But Matt's the same way. But I felt like, did you feel like when he first joined, did you notice that all the BPMs were like so fast? Like, and
Yeah.
I wonder if that was him because I feel like Eddie is very particular about BPMs on stage, and I wonder if he's like feeding Matt that stuff in the beginning. But that's one thing I noticed when he took over. It's like, oh, this song's cooking, man.
Cooking, right. It's funny because I mentioned that to my wife at one point, and I was like, and it was something obvious. It was like even flow or something. Like it's so fast when they play it. Like the groove doesn't feel right because it moves too
Yep.
fast. And I was like, but there's a couple others like that. And I was like, I want him to pull it back a little bit just so you can feel the pocket a little bit more.
Right.
And I don't know.
Yeah. It's like if they tried to push Dirty Frank a little too quick, you're like, oh man, come on, dude. Come on. So at the time when you're getting into all that music, so Chili Peppers, Pearl Jam, Sonic Youth, everything, what's going on with you and your career with guitar? Like what's happening at that time?
So this is, I started listening to a lot of that music in the late '80s. Also, while still very actively following the Grateful Dead around, but then crossing over and listening to all of this other music at the same time, and then right around, I want to say it was, think the summer of '90. It might have been the summer of '91 was the last time I saw the Grateful Dead. I just kind of like I grew disinterested in them, just in seeing them in a stadium and their shows not being as good as I wanted them to be, and the experience not being what I was looking for. And at that point, honestly, I'd started playing with Mo, and and just musically and everything, we were kind of in a different place, and that's when I was listening to a lot more of that music at that time. Um, so that was right around that whole transitional time.
Okay. Who were the first cats you met as far as like the current band? Like who were the guys that like you hooked up with
Oh, it was Rob and
first?
Chuck.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, and I had met them before, like years before ever playing with them, because they were friends with an old girlfriend of mine who went to Buffalo, and so when I would visit her, we would hang out together. I would see them, and so we had some history together, at least familiarity with each other. So when I moved to Buffalo, I think it was only a matter of weeks or less before we started playing music together.
Really? And how did that
Yeah.
organically happen? Did you guys just say, "Hey, let's get together on a Saturday or something?" Or
They had a house party coming up, and the other guitarist in the band couldn't do the gig, and they knew that I played guitar, and they're like, "You want to do it with us?" And sure.
what did you guys play at the gig? Do you remember?
Um, they they gave me a cassette tape. It was like their
Yes.
demo tape that had like 4 or 5 originals on it, which would have included like Sensory Deprivation Bank, maybe YOY, and
Okay.
then maybe Flow, and then a song called Talk to Me About Elvis, which our old drummer used to sing. Maybe like those 4 songs, and then a bunch of covers that we might have played at the time. And that's all I remember. The only I remember, was it Green Earrings, the Steely Dan song? I
Oh man, you
can't.
guys
Oh, there
went
was a
for it.
Joe Jackson song that we did. Was it Got the Time? I don't know. There's a Joe Jackson song. There was that Steely Dan song. I don't know. The covers were kind of all over the place too. Like
Yeah,
they were all like very like you know very like music. They were like musicians kind of songs.
totally.
Um,
Have you guys always been like that? Like from the get-go, it sounds like it, that you're like, if we're gonna do this, let's push ourselves and challenge ourselves. And if we fall on our face, okay, cool, we'll learn something from it.
a little bit. I mean, we it's it. Anytime we choose a song, we want to play something that's going to be interesting to us.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Fair.
and not just do it because because people will pump their fists to it, or whatever. I don't know. We don't just play like party rock.
Oh
So
yeah.
we want to do something that's going to be redeeming to us in some way, and
Mm-hmm.
that we'll enjoy.
Okay.
The,
And
the the challenge that we find is like finding those songs that we want to play that other people also would find interesting.
I feel like you guys deliver that pretty hard. Often, like anytime I've been to a show and you played something that's a cover. I mean, I've been to so many shows, countless shows. I was there for the Dark Side show in Philly. That was amazing. Just there's so
Yep.
many great memories I have from just coming to see you guys play. And I feel like every time you guys would pull something random out, all my friends and I would be like, no way. Like, because we're musicians and fans of music, and like it's like you're feeding our soul
Right.
with us. That's what I think I appreciated about you guys is, you're not gonna just play something to play to fill time. It's like intentional,
Yeah.
um
Well,
so
I mean, I feel that way about a lot of the bands that I like. I mean, not unlike Pearl Jam, for example. Like that's why I think we end up playing a lot of the same covers that they do because we grew up on the same music. But but Fish does that too, and Panic does too, and that's why hell, Humphreys does too. Like I like I don't know. I like those bands because and I like the music that they make, but maybe it's because we all like kind of grew up on the same music. So it's cool to hear what they all decide to do too.
oh my god, dude, yeah, it's amazing. I love, and the sense of community between all of you guys it's so palpable. Like it seems like there's just like this brotherly love amongst all the bands that you mentioned, that you guys are kind of all in it together. It's kind of like when you watch PJ20 and it's like Soundgarden and Alice in Chains and Mudhoney and Pearl Jam. It's like they're all supporting each other and lifting each
Yeah.
other up. And I mean, that's beautiful, man. It's absolutely beautiful. Um, I wanted to talk to you about like your guitar growth throughout the years and like how you see your trajectory, how it started to where it is now, because there has been I've been watching you play guitar for a long time now. And obviously, you hope you get better throughout the years and everything, and you hope you improve. But what are the things in the beginning of your journey? And I say this as, a guitarist who's banged his head against a wall when you're working on something crazy. But like, what are the things that part of your journey then once you got over that hurdle, you're like, light bulbs, like that really kind of lit you up? Because I wonder how that stuff comes out of your practice into your improv on stage.
Hmm. God, there's so many little things along the way, and things that I like still lean on today, like when like when you sort of like when I like crack the code about like learning my way around the fretboard, but in a way that, let's just say we're playing in a particular key and I can play all of the chords in that key, and we're not changing, but if and so if we're in G, for example, then I could play the G, the A minor, the B minor, the C, the D, the E minor, etc., and move my way up through that and know not only just how to kind of move my way up the neck, but know now also, like, even like if we just take the G, I could play that in every different variation up the neck, but then also that A minor and then also the C, and it opens up the entire fretboard to you if you know that. Just knowing that, and then being able to connect those dots together and go, okay, well, like I'm not you're not married to having to play those whole chords, but you can now string together melodies or harmonies based on those things. And so that's like one of the things that I discovered was playing like a lot of like double stop things and just two or three note things together that kind of move through those things in a particular key, and it's all through those things. And it opened up so many pathways for me, both melodically, visually, in terms of my comfort level, that it's something that I just still lean on today, and it's become just part of my DNA in playing guitar. And it's so much different than these are the chords to the song, this is the box that you're soloing in, and those are the only two tools that you have, instead of this is the key that you're in, here's the landscape, feel free to explore. You just
Yeah.
just it's all like the world is your oyster, and it just like And it's so simple. I'm not expressing anything that's like super complicated, but if you take the time to explore those things and learn those things and connect those dots, it opens up like worlds of possibility to you in terms of your ability to improvise then or play something that's outside of those two boxes. And that's just been wonderful to me. You mentioned oh no, it wasn't. I thought it was actually. Did you say Schofield before? It was Schofield.
Yeah,
There was
like
a John McLaughlin thing that I'd come across years ago, and it had to do with this notion of just practicing scales, but doing it by manipulating the arpeggios and just practicing different intervals of those scales.
yeah.
And again, it blew my mind when you start hearing not just everything in a linear fashion, but then you do the seconds and thirds and fourths and fifths and sixths, and then practice your scales in those intervals up and down and whatever. And then to hear those tones, I'm like, oh, like this sounds like a Miles Davis solo, but you're just playing like, you know, something because you're hitting all the sixths or something. And I'm like, this is freaking amazing. This is great. And again,
Yeah.
it just like it opens up it blew my mind sonically about like some of those possibilities and everything. It's still so like in the box technically. I mean, you're just still following all the rules, but it just kind of opened up a lot of pathways for me, probably neurologically more than anything.
Dude, yeah.
Um, but those are two pretty rudimentary examples that I would say like, are just again just examples. And those things happen all of the time. Every now and then like you hit a thing and you're just like, oh damn, I've been playing guitar for I don't even know 40 years now, and like how did I not know that that was there? That thing's been sitting in front of me this whole time,
Yeah.
I
Well,
remember
hey
it blew
man.
my mind when I realized the major pentatonic scale and minor pentatonic scale were like all the same and could be like you could use them all. And I love the sound of the major pentatonic scale, but until I discovered it, I didn't know how to make that sound or what it was, And I was like, this is amazing. I love it. I love it when people play like this.
Yeah, man. What's cool too is like as a young kid, like kind of getting into modes, like when I discovered like listening to the jam and spine, like going from D to C back and forth,
Hmm.
I thought, okay, do I have to be playing in D? I'm like, actually, no, you're in G major because
Right.
that's the
Sure.
5 and the 4 chord. And I was like,
Yeah.
what? So I can
Yeah.
just play G major through over this whole thing. That was like huge. So I totally get what you're saying, man. It's like
Right.
these little things that just push you right over the edge, man. It's so
Yeah.
cool. So what are
Yeah.
you doing now for like what are you doing now improvisationally that's different than what you would have been doing like 10 years ago even? Like because you guys all listen really well. Like that's the thing that I like about Mo. It's like you guys really are listening. And you know how some bands when they're jamming, it's basically somebody just soloing for 3 minutes and you're like, that's not a jam. That's just a
Yeah.
extended solo. But you guys are so good of like crossing those lines. Like somebody's blowing over the changes, right?
Yeah.
But then you get to a point where everyone clicks and you find an idea, like a motif, and you guys sit there. So
Yeah. We
like,
try.
yeah, I mean, how
And
does
it's
that
both. It's
happen?
both. Like you said, there are moments when it is just somebody shredding, and it's called for. But then there are other times that you kind of all do want to jump on a thing, jump on a pattern. Somebody, yeah, like you said, somebody plays something that's melodic, and we all hear it, and we all play it. And um, what am I doing differently? I mean, I hope that I'm listening more. That's the thing that I try to do. I want to listen more, and I want to listen more and play less.
Yeah,
Um, and but not to the detriment of the music, not in a slow and old kind of way. Yeah, not in that way where you're just like, oh, I remember when they used to be good and now aren't, but just in a like making better choices and playing in a much, I don't know. There's a way of like approaching like a mature refinement that actually, makes everything better without necessarily making it just slow and old. And that's again one of those fine lines that like I kind of strive toward. Um, the other thing, this is just sort of a mechanical thing. I find more and more that I'm playing with my fingers on my right hand a lot more, and using a pick a lot less.
Really?
I do a lot of hybrid picking, but
Yeah.
I also just kind of ditch the pick altogether and just play with my fingers quite a bit these days. And I like the tone of it, and I also, and again, it puts me in that place because you can't shred things. I mean, I can finger pick pretty quickly, but it's a different thing, and I just I like, I don't know, I just like where it forces me melodically and the choices that I end up making that way. And so I end up playing with my fingers quite a bit.
When did that start? When you like just
I
recently
don't
or?
know.
Oh
No, I've
wow.
been doing it for a while now. Like I said, it started with a hybrid picking thing, and I've just been doing it a lot more. Even the things that I used to pick, there are parts of most songs that are like the composed sections that I used to just play strictly with a pick, and now it's all intermingled. I play half of it with my fingers and half of it with a pick, and
Dig it.
just I've gotten used to it, and
I love
so
that stuff. I'm a huge
yeah,
Wayne Krantz fan, and
yeah,
Wayne's all about the hybrid picking stuff. So,
yeah,
and dude, I took a lesson with Charlie Hunter one time, and I was playing something, and he was like, "Do that again. That was pretty hip." And then I was playing with my fingers, and then I picked up a pick, and he's like, "Mm-mm, put the pick back down. Do that again." And I was like, "Okay." And he's like, It sounds way hipper with your fingers." And I never really thought about it that way,
yeah,
because it does stifle like your creativity in terms of like complacent creativity where you're just leaning on crutches. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But that's awesome. I'm dude, like it's all this like what you were saying, like the musical maturity. It's
hmm,
not old and in the way. It's it is more of that musical maturity coming out more and
yeah,
more. That's refreshing to hear, dude. That you're kind of continuing to what else would be cool? What can I do to serve the song?
right,
Um, which is awesome. All right. I would be remiss since we're running out of time if we didn't talk about gear, Al.
okay,
So all right. So you guys have both kind of bounced back and forth between different guitars, whether you're playing an SG or you're playing a Telly or you're playing like a 335S guitar, or Chuck's playing his Barbie Strat or his Collins or whatever like iteration you guys have gone through. Do you guys like intentionally choose those palettes? Like, I'm going to play humbuckers tonight, or I'm going to play. I don't think you do, but like, is there any kind of discussion about like, what can we do to complement on stage?
no, no, we do not. There is not a discussion that precedes what happens on stage ultimately. That certainly happens in the studio. Um, if Chuck is favoring a particular guitar, I might I might play something else, just because of that. We definitely try to stay out of each other's way in that regard. It's funny. There was a conversation early on about who would have a Leslie and who would have a talk box, because we couldn't both have both, and of
Right.
course, as guitar geeks, like you kind of want it all. So I had a Leslie and he got the talk box, and that was it. And I was like, okay, so I'll be the guy with the Leslie, you be the guy with the talk box, and those two paths shall not cross. But then I bailed on the Leslie. I didn't want to have a guitar Leslie cabinet. I tried to simplify my setup, whatever. And I think he got one at one point. He actually had a Leslie cabinet. Then he went to a Leslie pedal, and I think that's basically what it is. Like, if you like forego that claim or whatever, like, and somebody else can pounce on it and sort of say that. And so, like, I was playing that blue telly that had the humbucker, that was the thin line,
Mhm.
and I stopped playing it. And then he started playing his telly, the thin line with the humbuckers in it. So I couldn't go back to mine because Chuck was playing his. And I'm like, okay, well, But I've been playing a Les Paul for a while at that point anyway, and so that's when I just switched to the SG, and I was like, well, it's humbuckers, but it's different, and
Yeah.
you know.
That guitar sounds great, and it looks sexy as hell. That green, like,
Oh,
SG
the
that you
SG. Oh yeah, I love
oh,
that guitar.
that thing is killing. Actually, the picture I put up of you on Instagram, somebody, like, DM'd me and was like, "I want that guitar so bad." I'm like, "Yeah, that color is dope." It's just I don't know, there's something about that color on a SG. And are those pickups in that? Are those, like, low whine kinda PAF style pickups in that?
Yeah, those are Lawlers that are in there. The Lawler
Imperials?
Imperials. I don't. I think I probably have the stock pickups somewhere. It's. I mean, it's a fairly recent custom shop guitar. When I say fairly recent, it's like 15 years old at
Right.
this point. But yeah, I put the Lawlers in it. Gosh, probably 10 years ago at this point, and I love those pickups. They're great.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's a great guitar. What are you playing through right now in terms of your amp? Because like you've kind of bounced around a little bit amp wise too. Like for a while, I saw Voxes up there, and then
Yeah, I
it's
played through
changed.
AC30s for a long time, but I've been playing through old Mesa Boogies for several years now, which is it's what I started playing through when I started playing in Mo. I had a Mesa Boogie. Actually, I had the Bassman first. I might have had my Bassman first, and then I got a Mesa Boogie Mark One, which I had for years, and then kind of went through a bunch of amps, and you know, I wound up sort of back where I started again and playing through Mesa Boogies again. My pedal board is going like this, and then like back to here again, and and it's sort of part of that same mindset where I just feel like I could do you just kind of do I don't want to say less is more, but like if I have just sort of like the essentials on the ground, I can just listen more and not be distracted by, I don't need 4 or 5 overdrives or fuzz pedals or whatever to sort of achieve that thing that we're doing on stage at this point. So
Right. Because it's gonna sound like you, man. It's your hands and it's your amp. I mean, like for real though. I mean, you could have a TS9 on there and it's gonna sound like Al. Like it.
well, thank you.
What are you
I
using?
appreciate that.
Yeah, dude.
Um,
What's the
I you know
overdrive now?
I use a I've been using a Klon Klon a Klon clone, actually made by somebody in upstate New York, a company called Arc Effects. It's called the Clone. And the funny thing is, like, I was not a Klon pedal guy for years, and I had an original, and I just never used it, and I don't know what it was. I just couldn't find sort of the right vibe with it. And I think it was because I didn't like it with the AC30s, or I just didn't like it with the amp. Like it was like the combos that I had. And I finally found like the right combination, I think, with the pickups I have and the amp that I'm using. It's like I really, really kind of like it. I really just use it for a boost, kind of a mid-range boost and a volume boost. I'm not using a lot of the gain on it. I mean, they sound great when you crank the gain on them, you can get like a pretty sustainy thing, but um, I tend to like fuzz pedals for that stuff. So
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right, let's talk some fuzz real quick then, because I'm a fuzz junkie. I probably
okay.
if you saw the drawer next to me and if I opened it up, you'd be like, "Wow, dude, you got a problem." But what are you like? Fuzz face? Are you zonk machine? Are you tone bender? Like what's the vibe you go for when you want to hear that gnarliness?
I mean, I like them all.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
So I like them all. I would say the fuzz face is probably my favorite fuzz pedal. And so I use the Analog Man Sunface
Mm-hmm.
as like sort of my go-to touring pedal. And that has the germanium transistors in it. So it has like the NKT 275s in it,
Mm-hmm.
which do not like the summertime heat from the festivals at all. It starts to sound really ratty and it's not great. So then I usually switch to a big muff pedal that's kind of like a ram's head sort of pedal
Yeah.
that is okay. And like it's like I love big muff pedals too, and they have their place. But I haven't been digging it in my setup as much. So I've been trying to find like the right like summertime pedal for this thing. Um,
Al, can I hip you to something that you might really love?
yes.
So
Is
my
it
friend has a company out in California in Burbank, and it's called OCE Pedals. His name's Chris Evans, so his company is the original Chris Evans. So,
okay?
but this pedal,
Oh,
it's called the Wrench Fuzz. It's a silicon transistor.
okay.
I'm telling
Yep.
you right now, man, this is one of the best sounding fuzzes, and it's like $190 or $199
Okay.
or something like that. But he is building some of the. I mean, this thing is magic, dude. Like Josh Scott from JHS has been raving. I told him about it, and he's been raving
Yep.
about it. But like
Okay.
in the summertime, you might want to check
Right,
that
that's
out.
the thing. Need a good silicon fuzz, and like I just haven't really found one that I love, and so maybe that'll be the one.
Yeah,
I don't
Jesse
know.
Davey from Kingtone Pedals. I don't know if you've heard about his stuff.
Yeah, so I have one of those too, and I got one of the silicon ones, thinking that might be the thing, and I love the pedal, but I find that like it's like great at home when I mess with it, and then when I get it like in a live setting, like it's never like quite where I want it to be.
Right.
And
Do you usually
so
stack overdrive with your fuzzes, like Doyle Bramhall, like smooth things out or at all? Or okay.
no, I mean I do like out of desperation, but it has not been my MO generally.
Yeah.
I usually just like to hit the fuzz pedal first, and then um, so I don't
Yeah.
know.
I do. I love fuzz. I mean, I mean, I can't
Me
have
too.
enough fuzz, dude. I
Me
mean,
too. So I'm a big fan of the Zvex Fuzz Factory,
oh yeah, I think it's gnarly, dude.
and I have a big collection of those pedals, including some fuzz probes. But the
Nice.
band has basically told me I'm not allowed to have one on stage at this point.
They're a little unpredictable, man. They're a little
They're
crazy.
very unpredictable, and they're usually freaking loud, and they're out of control, and I love them. I absolutely love them, and they were just like every time I would use one on stage, everybody would just like look at me like, "What are you doing?" Like, it's amazing, isn't it? And like I'm having a great time,
That's all that matters. Come on, everybody can get in on the fun.
and
That's
everybody's
fine.
looking at the monitor engineer. They're like, "Take him out of my mix. I don't want to hear this anymore." Like,
Oh,
all
that's
right.
so funny, man. Dude, there's so many companies now too. I mean, I'm sure you probably get emails from companies like, "Hey, check this thing out. Can we send you one?" But I'll send you the
Just
link.
send me all the fuzz pedals.
I'll send you a link to this so you can check it out.
Okay,
But dude, it's two knobs. It's just volume and fuzz, and
that's
it's the
really all you
best.
need.
It's the best sounding fuzz I've ever heard in my life. But
Yeah.
all right. Last thing that I wanted to ask you really quick, and this could be like a quick, you can just burn through this real fast. But what I
Is this the
find in
thing? Is this the rapid fire thing?
no.
Okay, all
I
right.
just want to ask you one more quick thing. So about guitar. So
Okay.
as far as like when you guys get into your through composed stuff, when you're writing that, how much input? So when you guys are in like the writing process, Vinny talked to me a little bit about how this kind of the dynamics work as far as like you guys writing. So you don't have to get into that, but like when you're writing like through compose stuff, is it like you come with something fully flush and it's like, here it is, and we work on it, regardless if it's like crazy odd time signatures and all this nuts, all the nuts and bolts, or is it like, oh, that's great. What if we did this? Like, how does that work when you guys do the through composed stuff?
It could be either. It could be either of those things.
Okay.
And we've definitely done both. I can think of scenarios in which we have, various band members have come in with a realized section. Said, okay, I want the intro to be like this. It goes like this. I play this, you play that. It's like this. We'll do this 4 times, and we do this thing or whatever, and it's like this. I do this, you play the harmony to this, whatever. Let's break it down. You do arpeggios here, whatever the thing is. Like, somebody might have the whole thing kind of mapped out and arranged already, or it might be something like, all I know is like, I want to, like, we need an intro to this, or we need a thing, and like, I'm going to take the chords from the bridge. Let's just start with that. But instead of like the feel that we had before, let's do it with a different feel. Let's try something else. Let's do it in halftime. And then you do, we might just start like tossing around ideas like that. And it's like, and then you never know. And then we can actually kind of spitball those different scenarios based on some things that we have. And then we start getting creative with things. We're like, oh, what if we took that thing and we did it backwards, or something, we played it in halftime, or what, and all of these different things start throwing around. What if you played the main riff over these other chords at the same time that I'm playing the other one, and then we get them to do that, and so
Yeah.
you won't know until you try it, and then we'll just start messing around with stuff like that.
Is there a doctor in the band that's kind of known as like, I can fix this? Or are you guys all kind of like, we all have our feelers on this stuff?
Yeah, I think everybody kind of has their feelers in there. Everybody has their strengths when it comes to it. Rob knows what he wants to hear, for example, but may not know how to express it. And so, there's that. Chuck, on the other hand, may not know what he wants to hear, but like he knows that whatever we're doing isn't quite the thing. And so we just have to kind of keep
Right.
going at it. Jim has all of the tools to express exactly, because he has all the theory background so that he can go through it and go, no, can't do that here, or that's against the rules. Are you sure you want to do that here? Or, that chord doesn't go here, or whatever, and so everybody has their strengths when we get to these things. And so we're able to sort of manage our way through these parts based on kind of who's driving at the time. That's really the key. Like, is anybody driving? Is it somebody's song? Is somebody driving? Is somebody producing in this particular section? There's all those things that we've had to navigate as we've, kind of all gotten older and just way more agreeable and way more relaxed. It's become a lot easier to get through that stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot less ego and a lot more, I don't know, just a lot more ease and willingness to just sort of like make music together. It's been great. Like the last 5 years or more, like we've gotten to this really great place of like, it's like been very easy to work with one. Not that it wasn't before. We've always had a very easy time of working with one another. But when you're young and dumb, like you just like, you're willing to die on a hill about whether you did something 4 times or 8 times.
Yeah, dude.
Like,
I know.
nobody cares about that stuff anymore.
No, that's awesome. I mean, you can tell there's like this, love between all of you guys. You can can see it. I remember I was at a show in Wilmington, Delaware one time, and I don't know what happened. Something happened. There was not even a train wreck, but there was something that happened on stage. And when you guys were done, somebody said, "Hey man, there's no I in team." And I think you're like, "Yeah, but there's a U in suck." And everybody was laughing their ass off. So I just, that's the thing is like, that's what I love about you guys is the sense of humor that comes along with it. You guys don't take yourself serious, but you're serious about music. You want to deliver the goods when you show up. You want to have fun. You want to have a good time, but you also want to play great music. So
Yeah.
that's Mo to me, all right, man. You want to do this lightning round? Get down with me. Let's do this.
Okay, I'll try.
All right. So here are the. Say it again.
I said, do I need to stretch first?
You might, yeah. Okay. Do some downward dog, and we'll get into it. All right. So here's the rules, Al. I'm going to read you. It's 10 rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Yes or no, basically. And if you want to explain your answers, I love explanations, but you don't have to. It's not mandatory, but I love it if you do it. All right. Ready? First one's always the same. Lennon or McCartney?
McCartney.
Muffins or scones?
Muffins.
Aqualung or Inagata Vita?
Aqualung.
IPA or stout?
Stout.
Twin reverb or super reverb?
Super.
Fletch or Fletch lives?
Fletch.
Binaural or yield?
Yield.
Okay. Fuzz or overdrive? We kind of covered those.
Buzz.
All right. Here's a skiing question. What's a better environment? East Coast skiing, West Coast skiing for you? What do you enjoy more?
East Coast.
Okay. All right. And here's the last one. Sometimes it's the hardest, sometimes it's the easiest. If you could take one record, it doesn't have to be your favorite record of all time, but if you could take one record and erase it from your memory, so like you've never heard it before, just so you could go back and experience it again for the first time, what record would that be?
Sgt. Pepper's.
Okay. Now tell me why on that one.
Because it's a masterpiece. Because of how great, I mean, all of it, because how great it sounds, because of the songwriting, because of the journey, all of it. It's because of all of it. This is amazing.
Yeah, I know. Fair enough, man. Are you more a Sgt. Pepper than an Abbey Road guy?
That's I would say yes. Yeah,
Okay.
I think Sgt. Pepper's is more complete. I know way too much about those recording sessions, and yeah, as much as I love the music on Abbey Road and I love the sound of Abbey Road, I also know that it doesn't hold up like Sgt. Pepper's does.
Yeah, I would agree. Did you
I mean,
dig that Disney Plus Get
oh
Back?
my God. Oh, I loved it.
How many
It
times
was
have you
great.
watched that? It's so good.
No, I've only watched it once. It was I mean, it was a lot to get through,
It was.
all 6 hours of that. But I mean, especially being in a band and being a fly on the wall for that band was incredible.
Yeah, man.
Just to see the band dynamic stuff, it's fascinating to see a band, like the greatest band of all time, a band of that caliber, not really be so bogged down by their fame that much, and just kind of be like four young dudes in the studio just kind of dealing with like normal band stuff.
Yeah,
Just
man.
kind of mind-blowing, and at the same time writing, we're not only like finishing Hey Jude, but also like working on Abbey Road at the same time. Like these songs are coming out, and I was just like, to watch it as it's happening, it was just phenomenal. Like to have, like, as they're working on the lyrics and the melodies and all of it, like, that was great. I've read through all the studio notes for all of this stuff, and then to see that I want to see all the footage.
Yeah, dude, I know. That documentary was so well done in terms of like it was a big redeemer from the Let It Be movie. It was a
Yeah.
huge redeemer, man. I loved it. Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Al, let me pop this up here. Everybody, if you don't know, I've talked about Mo several times on this channel. I talk about them even in like gear demos. I'll talk about Mo and Al and Chuck, but go check Mo out. If they're coming to a city near you, you've got to see this band. One of my favorite bands of all time, hands down. Thank you, BV, for being the moderator today, per usual. Al, dude, thank you so much. It means so much to me to spend some time asking you questions and, entertaining my little nerdy stuff.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. So hang tight, everybody. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. We'll see you next time.